Week 2 of the 2019-20 Championship is officially over and a lot of talking points need to go over. This is the first episode of my Championship review. This series is going to be called What We Learned, WWL. I'm going to go through each individual Championship game and go in depth, whether I expected things to happen or if a team surprised me. You get the idea. At the end of the video, I'm also going to give you my Carabao Cup predictions. So yeah, let's get into this video. The first game, Leeds and Nottingham Forest, that was live on Sky Sports. I managed to watch the game. And Leeds, for about 75% of the game, they controlled it. Leeds did not disappoint for that period. It was inevitable that they were going to have to take the lead soon. And it was Pablo Hernandez who managed to get past Robinson and slotted past Muric easily. Patrick Bamford, I thought, was a bit disappointing in this game. He had a good chance to score after Muric came really far outside the box. He should have chipped it over and it would have gone in, but instead he chipped it wide. Forest started to push on in the final 20 minutes of the game. In fact, Semedo for Nottingham Forest, I was really impressed with. He provided energy in the midfield, and when he went forward, everyone went forward. And with one of Nottingham Forest's 3 corners in the game, it chests off Lewis Grabban and it somehow trickles through the net, and then Nottingham Forest equalise. It's a pretty poor result for Leeds' perspective, despite of how much they controlled the game. They definitely should have scored more with the amount of chances they had. Forest, I think they were taken away point. Birmingham and Bristol City ended in a 1-1 draw in the end, likewise with Leeds and Forest. This one was a really close contest and actually a really good game. Bristol City, judging by the stats, did slightly better, but in terms of the chances, Birmingham City actually had quite a lot of them and could have probably scored more than one goal. Rodrigo had an effort from outside the box which Bentley saved pretty well. Benik Afobe had 2 great chances, which at both occasions he probably should have scored, especially his first one, because he did have time to get a really good shot on it, but Lee Camp managed to save it. In the second half, Jukovic had a really good chance, but Bentley made a great save, and in fact that save nearly made the ball bounce over the line. Eventually Birmingham took the lead after Mark Roberts gave a brilliant cross and Jukovic managed to head home in the end. A couple of minutes later, Bristol City managed to get back into it. Casey Palmer made a brilliant pass to Rowe and he managed to score a very cool goal. If I had to give my player of the match for each team, Jukovic would be for Birmingham and Casey Palmer for Bristol City. Him in particular, he had a lot of defence splitting passes and his through balls were just ridiculous. What we learned in that game, Birmingham City managed to continue with their momentum, which I was surprised about, and Bristol City struggling to get going. Benik Afobe, I don't know, is their main striker. I'd like to see more Sani Smodics. He wasn't brought on in that game again. Maybe try and put him up front instead of Afobe and to let him have a chance. But overall, Birmingham have had a much better start to the season than Bristol City have. Cardiff versus Luton ended 2-1 Cardiff. And in fact, this was a very close contest, which really did surprise me. Cardiff controlled about 60% of the game. It was a game of 2 halves. Cardiff had the first half by no doubt, but Luton's second half were absolutely terrific and really did put Cardiff under pressure. Cardiff managed to score following a free kick. In the first half, Cardiff were probably the better team. Sean Morrison managed to hit the crossbar, but then Cardiff took the lead from Aidan Flint from a great free kick, assisting by Josh Murphy in the end. Luton then started to control the game when they fell behind, so they had a brilliant response to that. They managed to score their goal from a corner, Pearson with a fantastic header inside the box, but then in the 96th minute, Vassell managed to win the game for Cardiff, which was assisted by a brilliant cross by Junior Hoylett. Heartbreak for Luton. I really did feel for them because they really grew into the game and gave Cardiff a very good contest. What we learnt in this game, Cardiff not as convincing as I made them out to be in my Championship predictions. Luton not having a problem scoring the goals, they just need to be better at dealing with long balls and set pieces. So then we have Charlton and Stoke, and this ended as a 3-1 victory for Charlton, and it was a really good performance for a home side. They actually only had 5 shots in the game, and 3 of those chances were on target. The difference is with Charlton compared to Stoke, when they had chances, they always looked like they're going to score, and indeed they did score. With Stoke, they looked a bit toothless going forward, I'm not going to lie to you. To go through Charlton's first goal, Lyle Taylor managed to get it. John Faleko with a fantastic pass from midfield. Taylor had a lot of composure, managed to cut past Butt and managed to get past Jack Butland. I've watched the replay of that goal a couple of times, and I have a feeling Jack Butland could have done better for that. After the goal, Stoke had a really good response. Stoke managed to hit the post and hit the bar before they eventually scored by Tom Ince, which was a really good goal in the end from outside the box. Charlton were lucky at times that Stoke did not score more. That chance when they hit the post, that was done by Lockyer giving the ball away at their own half. In the second half, Anike scored a great goal for the second, and for Gallagher, he managed to score the third one for Charlton, and it was a great first touch shot from a corner, hitting the top left hand corner in the end. So what we learned, Charlton have gained a lot of momentum and are very confident in the midfield and attack. Stoke have had a very slow start. They haven't looked terrible, but they just have not been as ruthless as any of the other teams are. They need to improve and be a really intimidating team and to not fluff any chances. Derby versus Swansea, I have to say, I did not expect it to end as a 0-0 draw. It was a very disappointing game. Both teams lacked the quality. I think Derby, by quite some consideration, were better than Swansea. Swansea were barely in the game at all. With Derby, they had a few chances, and no doubt the highlight of the game was when Jayden Bogle was found in the penalty area, but then Martin Waghorn failed to convert his penalty, with Woodman saving it. So yeah, not much to report back on this game, and the less I talk about this game, the better. So then we have Fulham versus Blackburn, and this ended as a 2-0 victory to Fulham. Fulham have now managed to get off the pace with Scott Parker. Blackburn have had a really poor start for this season. Fulham, they managed to control the game, I say, for most of the first half. Blackburn had a few chances, but Fulham looked more likely to score. Tom Kearney, from about 20 or 25 yards out, scores an absolute thunderbolt. It is definitely one of my contenders for goal of the weekend. It was absolutely special. Blackburn had 0 shots on target and practically did not test the Fulham goalkeeper in the end. For Fulham's second goal, Brian made a fantastic run and provided Mitro to have just a simple tap in, and Fulham made it look really easy in the end. What we learned in this game, Fulham do have firepower, they can play together. Scott Parker is a capable Championship manager. With Blackburn, however, it was a pretty poor game. They lacked a lot of energy. They didn't really create anything. Blackburn need to improve fast. Hull versus Reading. Hull managed to get a 2-1 home victory against Reading, and this was another very close game, and in fact a game dominated by 2 halves. I think Hull won the first half narrowly. They had a really good 30-minute spell, and they managed to score 2 goals in around 10 minutes. For the first goal, Grzycki did really well, setting up the goal for Bowen for a tap-in. Jackson Irvine then got the second goal from a fantastic header. And then Reading grew into the game, and Lucas João overall was probably my man of the match. He was fantastic for Reading. He managed to hit the post in the first half. There was a moment where Reading probably should have had a penalty when Long approached João. Eventually Reading managed to get a goal. It was Lucas João who got it. He had a lot of composure to get past the Hull defence in the end. Another player that looked really good was George Puskas for Reading. He dominated a lot of the play, and he rattled the crossbar near the end of the game, which meant Reading could have equalised later on, but it wasn't to be. Hull managed to win. Was it deserved? Maybe not. And what we learned was Hull definitely capable of scoring plenty of goals. Reading's goal was actually really good. Lucas João had a lot of composure to score past. It was a cool finish from him. George Puskas for Reading nearly made it 2-2. He rattled the crossbar from the free kick, and I think overall Reading would be a bit disappointed they didn't get anything out of this. What we learnt, Hull were a little bit lucky. They are capable of scoring with Grzycki and Bowen. They're going to carry Hull. With Reading, despite writing them off, they do have potential. They just need to ride their luck. Another close game was Middlesbrough and Brentford managed to get a brilliant away victory. Middlesbrough probably should have had a goal. They had a goal disallowed. Ashley Fletcher saying he should have got a goal. It looked a bit of a weird goal. I think it was the manner for how the goal set about. I'm in two minds whether that goal should have counted or not. Anyway, Middlesbrough did have some chances because Brentford played out from the back a lot, and sometimes they managed to capitalise on some of their poor passing. However, Brentford in the second half improved a lot, and in the end, it was Ollie Watkins who had a simple tap-in. Middlesbrough, I think, will be a bit disappointed they didn't at least draw the game. They did have a few chances that they probably should have taken a lot better. I think Brentford will heavily take those points. They can now use this game and to get their season starting up and running, because of course they are one of the favourites to make it to the playoffs, of course. A very important game was down at Deepdale as Preston managed to beat Wigan by 3-0. It was a fantastic performance by North End, and no doubt Ben HD will be very happy with that. Sean Maguire managed to get the first goal from a header from a corner. That was very nicely done. Wigan nearly equalised from that goal, Josh Windass managing to sting the fingers of Paul Rudd. Preston, I noticed, used the left side of the pitch quite a lot, and in fact it worked to great effect for their second goal. Johnson set up a brilliant pass for Moult to header it to make it 2-0. And in the second half, wow, Paul Gallagher with an absolute tremendous goal from outside the box, hitting the top right corner. It was absolutely outstanding and one of the goal of the day candidates for sure. With Wigan, I was a little bit disappointed. Apart from that Josh Windass effort, they didn't really create anything of that threatening. And I thought from the Cardiff game they could be riding with a lot of confidence. At times in midfield they played some fantastic football, but I think they were just completely outclassed by a very determined Preston side. And with that victory, maybe Preston could have a really good run of games and may do good things this season, who knows. A very feisty game was with Loftus Road with Queen's Park Rangers and Huddersfield. This ended as a 1-1 draw in the end. I think Huddersfield was slightly better than QPR overall in the whole 90 minutes. It was quite even. The first half was practically nothing practically happened in the first half. Apart from the fact that Jeff Cameron fouled Bacuna, he got injured. Then Bacuna had a very awful challenge of Ryan Manning. It looked to me like a red card, but he was given a yellow instead. I'm not sure if that was the right decision or not. Huddersfield got their first goal from a penalty. Ellis Kachunga was fouled by Johan Barbe. Carlin Grant managed to score their penalty. And in fact, Huddersfield, I think, are the only team in the league so far that have not scored from actual creative goals. They've only scored penalties. With Queen's Park Rangers, they eventually equalised. They grew on to the game after they went behind. Ryan Manning got a great assist and Grant Hall managed to head it in. But overall, it was a really tight game, a real feisty game as well. In terms of who may get better out of it, probably Queen's Park Rangers, because I say Huddersfield was slightly better than them overall. Queen's Park Rangers can use this game knowing that, if they've fallen behind, they do have the gut to go back into it. Huddersfield have had a slow start in this league. They've only picked up 1 point. They're in the bottom half of the table. And they need to improve fast and get some points at the board if they want to challenge for promotion. So now we go to Sheffield Wednesday at Barnsley, and that ended with a 2-0 home victory to Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday and Charlton Athletic are in fact the only two teams that have got a 100% start at the moment. Sheffield Wednesday had a fantastic game. Their first goal was a bit fortunate. Anderson was in fault with it, had a terrible back pass, and it was retrieved, and Jacob Murphy managed to score it in the end. Haddon Reach had a really good chance to try and get back into the game, but he just wasn't clinical enough. Barnsley had a few chances in this game. Wilkes had a lot of energy down the wing. Anderson probably had the best chance of the game just before half time, and he had a pretty tame shot, but it was straight at the Wednesday keeper, and he probably could have done a little bit better to have more power into it. Fletcher's goal was a very, very nice team goal, and he scored from just outside the box with a nice drilled low effort in the bottom right corner. With Wednesday, I can't fault their efforts so far. They're managerless and they are making some fantastic performances on the field. With Barnsley, they're going to really need to improve their away record if they want to be a threatening championship side that they made out to be on their first game when they beat Fulham. And the final game to go through in the weekend is West Brom against Millwall. This ended as a 1-1 draw, and in fact I was really disappointed with West Brom. They had over 70% possession, which was likely because Slaven Bilic likes possession football, but Millwall actually made a really good account of themselves and probably should have won based on their chances. Kenneth Zohore, I don't know how he didn't score in the first half. Millwall were dispossessed in their own penalty box, and Zohore had all the time in the world, but then shot it straight at Bielkowski. He should have done a lot better with that. West Brom eventually took the lead from a Pearce own goal from a free kick, but then Matt Smith managed to get back for Millwall, completely unmarked in the box, and I'd say Millwall deserved it. They did pretty well in this game. What we learned is that not having a really out-and-out striker for West Brom could be a big problem for them in the season. Zohore's got to really step up quickly. With Millwall, Matt Smith looks like to be their main guy, 2 goals from 2 at the moment. And maybe Millwall can have a much better season than they had for last year. But this wraps up my championship review. Let's have a quick look at the table. So a few teams stand out for me. As I said, Sheffield Wednesday and Charlton are the only teams with a 100% record so far, 6 points out of 6. So they occupy the automatic promotion places. Preston, with their big improvement, are now in the top 10 of the table. Millwall on 9th, which really surprises me. Huddersfield are all the way down in 19th, a newly relegated side, not doing all that well. And then if you look at the bottom 3, they consist of Blackburn, Stoke and Reading, which are the only 3 teams that have managed to not get a point on the board yet. So this wraps up my Championship Week 2 review. So now what I'm going to go through, I'm going to quickly go through all the Carabao Cup matches that involve a Championship team. So let's get through this quickly. Barnsley against Carlisle United, I'm expecting Barnsley to win that game 2-0. Blackburn Rovers versus Oldham. Oldham have not got a great start in League 2 at the moment. In fact, I think they're bottom in League 2 at the moment. Blackburn are also bottom of the Championship. I think Oldham may force this to go to a replay. I think it's going to be 1-1. Bradford and Preston North End, I think that's a really good game and a really good test for Preston. Bradford have had a pretty meh start to League 2, it's not been amazing. I think this one will also be a 1-1 draw. Brentford and Cambridge is intriguing. I think Brentford will win this one 3-1 in the end. Charlton and Forest Green, I'm going to say that's going to be a 2-1 home victory to Charlton. Huddersfield Town and Lincoln, I think is a really good game. That and Salford and Leeds are probably the 2 best Carabao Cup games. I think Lincoln are going to force Huddersfield into a replay. I think this is actually going to be a 2-2 draw. I can see plenty of goals in there. Luton and Ipswich is another really good game. In fact, this will be a close contest. I expect Ipswich to win a 1-0 away victory for that. Nottingham Forest and Fleetwood is going to be a very interesting game as well. Obviously, Joey Barton being Fleetwood's manager. I think Forest will win this one by 1-0. Borough and Crewe, I think, is a really interesting game. I think Borough will win this by 3-0. We've got an all-championship tie in the first round with Queen's Park Rangers against Bristol City. I think that's going to be a really close game. In fact, I'm going to back QPR for a 2-1 home victory. I think they're capable of doing that. And then we get to the big one, Salford against Leeds. This is Salford's debut at the Carabao Cup, and they're facing Leeds United. I think this will be a really good game. I actually think Salford are going to force Leeds into a replay for a 1-1 draw. Scunthorpe and Derby, I'm not sure. Scunthorpe have not started League 2 at all. I think Derby will win this by 2-0. Swansea and Northampton's intriguing. I think Swansea will win this by 2-0. Tranmere and Hull is interesting because I think Tranmere do take up competitions quite seriously. I think Hull will win this 2-1. We've got another all-championship tie with Wigan against Stoke. I'm backing Wigan for a 2-0 home victory. I think they're capable and they'll put Nathan Jones under so much pressure from this season on. Reading face Wycombe Wanderers away from home. It's going to be not a very easy game. Wycombe play a very unique brand of football. I think Reading will just about edge them by 1-0, and I think that will be the game where they can kickstart their season, because out of the bottom three, they don't play like a bottom three team. They've actually really impressed me so far. And finally, to end off, an all-championship tie, West Brom against Millwall, which was literally the game this weekend. And I think West Brom may get the better of them. I think it's going to be 2-1 to West Brom. So there you have it. These are my Carabao Cup first round predictions, also my championship review. I'm going to go through what I think the biggest shock of the weekend was. I think the biggest shock of the weekend was Charlton managed to get a 3-1 victory over Stoke. In the manner that Charlton managed to really blow Stoke out the park, I think that would be the shock / best result of the weekend. In terms of the goal of the weekend, it's really tough. I think I'm going to give it to Tom Kearney. I know Paul Gallagher's is great as well, but from the angle that Tom Kearney was, I think his just looked slightly more satisfying to see. But there you guys, this wraps it up for this video. If you enjoyed what you see, please give this video a like and a subscribe if you're new around here. All of that is massively appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of the video. Take care.